All right, so we got a bit of breaking news. Dustin Poirier against Nate Diaz is on. Or is it? Let's talk about it. Before we do, my name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. In fact, don't just consider it. Please just hit the subscribe button. I'm very close to getting to 1,000 subscribers. That's been a goal of mine for absolute ages. So I'd really appreciate the help in getting there by you hitting the subscribe button. All right, so just under an hour ago, I've just seen a video uploaded to YouTube via the Fight with Teddy Atlas channel. Obviously, so that's Teddy Atlas's podcast with his co-host Ken Rideout. They had Dustin Poirier on as a guest, and they started quizzing Dustin Poirier about his next move, when's his next fight. And Dustin Poirier let the cat out of the bag, saying, I've got to go for a run after this because I've agreed to a short notice fight. And initially, Dustin Poirier didn't want to reveal who his opponent is going to be. But Ken Rideout correctly guessed that it's going to be Nate Diaz. And of course, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work that one out. But once Ken Rideout said, is it Nate Diaz? Dustin Poirier kind of let his guard down a little bit and said, yeah, it is Nate Diaz. And they started talking about their back and forth on social media, etc. They both, Dustin Poirier said he's agreed to a fight at 170 pounds. He wouldn't kind of reveal when the fight is going to be, but he did say it's short notice. So the first thing I did, which is pretty obvious, is have a look at the UFC's upcoming schedule. They've got UFC 270 this month and UFC 271 next month. 270 goes down on January the 22nd, which is just under 3 weeks away, and UFC 271 goes down on February the 12th, which is let's do some maths, 1 2 3 4 5, just under 6 weeks away. Given the fact that the fight's at 170 pounds, Dustin Poirier, I'm assuming, will be able to make that in whether the fight's in just under 3 weeks, and definitely you'll be able to make that if it's just under 6 weeks. Nate Diaz, I don't know, because Nate Diaz is a big lump. I know he fought most of his career at 170 pounds, 155 pounds, but if you see him these days, he's a big, thick guy these days, you know. It makes you think, how did he get down to 155 pounds for all those years? But then again, when he started out at 155 pounds, it was 10, 12 years ago. He was a lot younger, you know. So I personally believe that the fight, if it happens, will happen in February at UFC 271. And the reason why I say that is the card for UFC 270 already has two title matches, and it has a fair number of names that the MMA audience are familiar with, whereas UFC 271 has a very good main event in Israel Adesanya against Robert Whittaker. But apart from that, there isn't a lot of name value on that card. I'd go as far as to say the biggest, and when I say the biggest name, I don't mean the name with who's the best fighter, or the guy that or the guy or girl who's most likely to win a title out of all of the fighters on the rest of the card. But to me, the name that sticks out the most is Roxanne Modafferi on UFC 271. So I feel like that card definitely 100% needs bolstering. Now, Dustin Poirier did say that he's agreed to it verbally. He's still waiting for Nate Diaz to do the same. So this fight hasn't officially been signed, sealed, and delivered. However, Nate Diaz has been very vocal recently about wanting to fight. He wants to get in there. He wants to fight as soon as possible. And this is his opportunity, because this is the opponent that he's wanted. That this is one of the opponents that he's been calling out on social media. And it looks as though this fight is possible to be made within the next few weeks, right? So with that being said, it seems very logical that Nate Diaz will agree to fighting Dustin Poirier. However, we're talking about Nate Diaz here. He is very unpredictable, and he is a man that we've seen over the years that isn't willing to compromise on the conditions he wants to meet. He wants the UFC to meet for him to fight, right? Because he's actually one of the very few guys that isn't scared to walk away from the negotiation table with the UFC. He isn't scared. And that's why he tends to get what he wants from the UFC. I'm surprised a lot of the other fighters on the roster don't follow suit, or the guys that have a little bit of leverage, at least anyway. It's quite funny because when it comes to Nate Diaz, there was a lot of talk over the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 weeks that the UFC have offered him Khamzat Chimaev, and it's a ploy because this is the last fight on Nate Diaz's contract, and the UFC want to give him a very difficult opponent so that his bargaining position as a free agent is hurt because of a difficult fight on the way out of the door from the UFC, which gives them a better chance of being able to re-sign him, because if, you know, other offers don't match what the UFC are willing to pay him to extend his contract, then it's likely he'll just stay, right? So this fight being made doesn't fit with that narrative. And Dana White actually did mention, that he is Dana White was asked about this fight, and he said, yeah, if these two guys want to fight, then I'm happy to make it, during a press conference over the last couple about, I think, at UFC 269, maybe before then. Ara Hawani has also reported that the UFC are trying to get this fight made, and I think when he reported this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he mentioned the January 22nd date, but because obviously it hasn't been confirmed, maybe they've had to go for the next pay-per-view, which I think works in the UFC's favour, because like I said, UFC 271 isn't a great card. But going back to the point I was trying to make in terms of the UFC and Nate Diaz, and the UFC trying to give Nate Diaz a difficult fight, that's not something that surprises me, and it's obvious. It's a fact that he was offered Khamzat and Nate Diaz turned that down, right? But having said that, the most important thing to the UFC is the dollar bill. And during an interview that Dana White did with Brett Okamoto at the end of last year, one of the things that he was very proud of, and one of the things that he spoke about a couple of times, is 2021 was the most successful year for the UFC in terms of pay-per-view revenue, right? And if you look at, like I say, the card for UFC 271, go on Wikipedia, have a look. That card there reminds me of a boxing card with a really, really, really good main event. And let's just say the rest of the card is very difficult to market to people to entice them to buy the pay-per-view, right? And given the current climate, given what the world looks like, and given that both of these guys are coming from New Zealand and Australia, and they'll be fighting over there in Houston, Texas. So, by the way, Happy New Year, Redneck Truth Spouter, my boy. This one's for you. If they add this to this card, man, you're so lucky you'll be able to reach out, no problem. But if that main event falls out, that card is not a pay-per-view card. So you need to bolster it up, and Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz are now two certified pay-per-view stars, right? So in terms of leverage over Nate Diaz, obviously that is a priority, but a bigger priority is creating revenue. And I feel like that's why the UFC are interested in making this fight, because they know people are going to pay for it. Going back to Nate Diaz and potential reasons why he might decide that he doesn't want to take this fight. I don't know what condition he is in terms of how much training he's done, in terms of, I'm assuming he'll be able to get down to 170 pounds, but that doesn't mean he's in fighting shape, right? So they're two different things. And he may be sat there thinking, I need to make sure that I look as good as possible. I need to make sure I look as good as possible for this final fight on my UFC contract. But having said all of that, I feel like, because it's short notice, I feel like any condition that Nate Diaz would like to fight under that isn't provided for this fight is something that he can spin if he doesn't win the fight. He can walk away saying, I wanted to fight for 5 rounds. They only offered me 3 rounds, so I had to take it. If it was 5 rounds, I would have won. But like, we know what Nate Diaz is capable of. He's really good at that, in fact. Like, he got beaten up for 5 rounds by Leon Edwards. He hurt Leon Edwards at the end of that fight, and he walked away holding on to that and claiming a moral victory off the back of that. Do you know what I mean? But personally, I'm very, 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 very excited if this fight does get finalized and we get to see these two guys throw down, because I think it will be very entertaining. These are both guys that I'm a big fan of. So yeah, let's wait and see. Let's see if this does materialize. Now, on a personal note, this isn't the video that I had planned to record today. I wanted to talk about Jake Paul against Dana White. But given that this is breaking news, I just felt like talking about it, because as you guys know, like I've just said, I'm a fan of Nate Diaz and I'm a fan of Dustin Poirier. It's a big fight in the world of MMA. I am still going to record my Jake Paul and Dana White video today, so you're going to be getting 2 videos. What I'm going to do is I'll edit this one up and I'll get it up onto my YouTube channel, and then I'll record my Dana White and Jake Paul one. Then I'll have a bit of dinner, go and see my grandma, and then I'll edit it, so it'll be up a bit later. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to comment what you think about please feel free to comment any of your observations about what I've said during this video. Your own observations, please feel free to share them. What do you think about the fight? Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited, etc, etc? Please put all of that shit below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I will catch you guys next time.